recording. We'll be sending out the recording so you can take a look at it if for later reference and all that good stuff. But thank you all so much for joining us tonight. You are at Getting Started Resort Skiing and Snowboarding. We are so excited to teach you like some tips and tricks and help you navigate how to start skiing or snowboarding at a resort. My name is Sarah and I'm with SheJumps. We are joined tonight by a few other volunteers and staff members with SheJumps, as well as Nordica, and we're all at different journeys of our ski or snowboard progression. So we're excited to share with you what we've learned and what we wish we knew back in the day. So hopefully you can get some good tips and nuggets from us. And I want to say props to all of you too for being here and starting something new. I know it can be so intimidating. So we are happy to have you here and want to like help make it more relatable and just like encouraging and welcoming to go and try a new sport. And let's see, I also wanted to give another shout out to both Nordica and Icon. As I mentioned, Nordica is joining us here tonight, and we have a representative that's going to talk about skiing. I'm really excited about that. Both Nordica and Icon Pass are big supporters of SheJumps, and they really support our Snowpack scholarship program. And I think we have a few scholars with us here tonight, but if you haven't heard of that, it's a great program we do to provide Icon passes to women that are getting new or are new into the skiing and snowboarding world. And this year we were able to provide 13 passes. And so keep an eye out for that for next year if that's something that you would be interested in. But we are so happy for their support and to be able to help more women get to the resort. So as I mentioned, I'm with SheJumps. This might be your first time hearing of SheJumps. Maybe you've been a long time supporter, but either way, we are so excited to have you here. SheJumps is really all about getting more women and girls outside and giving them like the confidence and skills they need to get outside and tackle something new. And we really believe in the transformative play of the outdoors. I think everyone who volunteers with SheJumps, we do it because we've had such great experiences outside and with other women skiing or biking or whatever it is. We've like experienced that firsthand, how awesome it has been, and how maybe it's helped us grow. And so we're really excited to help more women and girls have those experiences. And so, yeah, that's kind of the quick and dirty of SheJumps. And in order to do all that and have fun outside, we need to make sure that we're being safe in the process. So that's what tonight's all about. We want you to like be prepared when you go and try skiing or snowboarding. If you're really cold or just not hydrated or dehydrated, any of that stuff, like it's going to be hard for you to have a good positive experience skiing or snowboarding. So we want to make sure that we're like taking care of yourself and your body and your needs so that you can learn and like enjoy a new sport and activity. So here's a quick overview of who you will be hearing from tonight. As I mentioned, my name's Sarah. I'm with SheJumps and I'm program coordinator as well as the Wyoming regional coordinator. I saw we have someone here from Wyoming, so that's fun. I've been skiing for probably since I was like 3 or 4. I grew up doing it and I was really lucky to have a family that would go to the hill. And I love it. It's probably about like my favorite thing these days. And I'm now in Driggs, so Grand Targhee is where I go most frequently. And then I'll let Robin, if you want to introduce yourself next, and then we can just go through the line.
Thanks, Sarah, and welcome everyone. So glad you're here. I'm Robin Gelfand. I'm the National Program Director with SheJumps. I'm based in Portland, Oregon. So my local ski area is Mount Hood. And I've served different roles in the ski industry over the years. I used to be an instructor in Steamboat, Colorado. And for about 10 years, I ski patrolled at Mount Hood, and now I ski with my kids mostly. And you'll see a photo of my grumpy daughter in some powder later on in the presentation. I'll turn it over to Dione.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dione. I am a brand ambassador in Utah. I've been skiing more like seriously, I would say, over the last 2 years. I actually was a Snowpack scholarship recipient, so that's how I started getting involved with SheJumps, and it's been great since. but just been living in Utah for the last let's see, like 12, wow, almost 13 years now. So have had some experience with snow, but I feel like I'm still kind of in the early stages, but yeah, excited to be here tonight.
Hi, I'm Marlia. I am an Oregon event coordinator with SheJumps, and I live in the Salem, Oregon area. So my local mountain is Hoodoo, which is a lesser known of the mountains here in Oregon, but it's a good old family fun. So I love that mountain. I've been with SheJumps, I guess, going on 3 years as an event coordinator, but supporting SheJumps for many more years than that. So it's been really fun to get to be a little bit more involved and start participating in events in a different role. So thank you for being here, and I'll hand it over to Carly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carly Driscoll. I am based in Park City, Utah. I've been living in Utah for 13 years. My home mountain is Alta, but now I also ski Alta and Deer Valley with my family. My parents moved out here 7 years ago to be closer to their grandchildren. So we ski with them at Deer Valley, and I had been skiing Alta for the entire, that's the reason why I moved to Utah. I am Nordica's women's project manager and lead for North American initiatives, as well as I've been working with the brand for 6 or 7 seasons now, running their global digital marketing strategy and activation. So we focus on 7 main countries, so Germany, Austria, Italy, France, Switzerland, US, and Canada, for their content, execution across social media, email, and all of their advertising. But it has been a privilege to work with SheJumps, as they are one of our key partners for Nordica. Had been involved with SheJumps pretty much since I moved to Utah, working really closely with Claire and Vanessa Pierce, one of the other co-founders of SheJumps. When we were doing the Boys and Girls Club Get Into the Canyons at Alta, teaching kids how to ski up there for many years was really fun. And so Nordica is an honor to be here speaking to all of you, and honored to be a partner with SheJumps.
Awesome. Thanks all. So as you can see, we've got a pretty rad lineups of ladies here tonight with like various experiences to draw from. So we're excited to share our different backgrounds with you. Tonight, here's a quick agenda of what we're going to be going over. We're going to start talking about gear and equipment. We'll talk about skis and kind of everything that goes along with what you need as a skier, and same thing for snowboarding and maybe specific tips that might apply to one or the other. Then we'll also go over what to wear to set yourself up for success, and what to pack, food, all that sort of good stuff. And then we're going to go on to like resort tips, which will include like transportation and parking and just navigating a resort, kind of all that good stuff. There's so much that goes into going to a resort that you don't really think about. So we're going to hopefully touch on a lot of that, as well as lessons and like the benefits that come from lessons. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Carly to talk to you about skis. Ooh, Carly, you're muted.
Yes, sorry about that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Before I dive into quick tips on how to find the right skis, boots, poles, and bindings for you, I want to preface this with, at Nordica, we really want to take all of the tech talk out of the ski lingo. And this could be from beginner level skiers all the way up to intermediate and advanced level skiers, to kind of break it down and really keep it super simple. We like to keep it simple, stupid at Nordica when it comes to talking about products so that they are approachable. We make really awesome equipment, and so do a lot of other brands. And for us at Nordica, we're really focused on breaking down barriers, not only for women in skiing, but for skiers all over, and make it, simple for them to understand the equipment. So I wanted to preface that to start off. And then the second thing I wanted to point out before we dive in is we understand that equipment is expensive, and you don't have to go buy brand new equipment. But we do believe that equipment does matter. Getting the right gear for you, whether it be the right size boot, the right size ski, or really just newer-ish ski equipment, because it has evolved. The innovation with the competition between the brands has pushed the brands. And so I really do believe that the equipment can make your experience more enjoyable. So we can go ahead and jump into choosing boots. So we started out with boots for this because by far the boots are the most important piece of equipment that you can possibly have when it comes to hard goods. I won't talk about the outerwear that you're wearing because that is also very important in your gloves, but boots are first and foremost the most important piece. Nobody likes painful, cold feet, and the fit of the boot can affect the warmth of your foot. So that's really important. So we can go ahead to the next slide and I'll give you just a couple quick 3 things. So like I said, it's fit, fit, fit. So first, and maybe most importantly, we as a brand recommend that you go find a trusted boot fitter or go into a shop that is selling a wide variety of boots so that you can find the right boot for your foot. It's okay to buy boots online after you understand the type of foot you have and the brands that fit your feet, because different brands are going to fit differently. So again, it all comes back to that fit. And so we definitely recommend finding a boot fitter. So the second thing is knowing your foot shape and size. At Nordica, we have a line of boots called the Machine family, and it's 3: sport, speed, and pro machine boots. And they're different widths and different flexes for the fit of your foot. So that's how simple our brand is. Other brands will have different ways in which they differentiate the fit of the foot that should fit that boot. So know your foot. You could have a narrow foot, a low volume foot. You could have a wider foot, a thicker foot. And just really understanding that, kind of going back to number 1 tip is to find that boot fitter who is at least going to tell you some of those things. Another fun thing we like to think about at Nordica with boots is that you marry your boots and you date your skis. So you marry your boots because they're the most important part and you really want to be committed to the fit of the boot. And so that's really important. It should feel like a firm handshake. The presenters tonight were just chatting before everyone jumped on, and we were talking about, how when you go to buy a shoe, you want certain things. If you're, buying a dress shoe or a sandal or a sneaker, but with a boot, you want it to feel like a firm handshake, and you do not want your foot swimming around in the boot, because the boot is what gives you the stability that contacts the ski, which contacts the snow. So you want to make sure you have control there, but you don't want it too tight that you're losing circulation. Your feet are getting cold and numb, which means you can't really feel what's happening. And so that's why there's that kind of happy medium. We are going to share at the in the conclusion wrap-up email some links to some videos from our YouTube channel where Ethan Corpy, our Nordica's product marketing director, has 2 videos that I would highly recommend watching. They're a couple minutes long, so they're really quick and they get a little bit more techie. And he has the product so he can show some things. 1 is women's specific boot fit, and 2 is how to put a ski boot on, because that can also be a limiting factor. So that's boots. Skis. Well, skis are the fun part because they're the sexy part of skiing. Like, they're really fun, and Nordica has, maybe I'm a little biased, but we have really beautiful women's skis. We work really hard on our graphics with our graphics team, and that can be really inviting. But we can go ahead and go to the next slide. because we just also, again, try to keep this super simple. And the number one thing is what type of skier you are or what level of skier you are. So are you a skier that is beginner, intermediate, or advanced, but you really just like skiing groomers and on-piste snow? Are you a beginner, intermediate, or advanced skier that wants to get more into the powder or get a little bit more off-piste? Or are you a backcountry skier? Maybe you're a little bit of all of those things and you want just a one quiver ski that can kind of do it all. Number one is to really try to identify what type of skier you are and be honest about what level you are. So that if you, or when you go into a ski shop, you can tell them that and they can at least direct you to a product category. So I kind of also already touched on the terrain you like to ski. At Nordica, we have a handful of collection of skis. We have groomer specific on-piste skis. We have free ride skis that are made to go through crud and powder and also rip on the groomers. We have all mountain touring skis that can be, they're light enough to go touring, but they're really made for all day skiing. So they're made to hit up the resorts, maybe do some slack country, but really identifying what kind of terrain you want to ski. And then really it comes down to the length of the ski and your ability level. So going back to number one, the length of the ski, if you're a beginner ski, should come up to your nose. If you are a more advanced skier and you like to really push it and you know you like to ski steep terrain and you're fully in control, then your ski will probably need to come up to your, like the tip of your head or maybe a tiny bit longer. Again, we have some really great product videos on our YouTube channel. I think they're putting them into the chat tonight, so you can link out to those now. But we'll be sending those links out from our product managers. And kind of the last thing I want to say about skis and boots as a whole is, I said it at the beginning, but Nordica, as well as all the competitor brands, we really make, the products are really good. So there's a lot of lingo in the industry, or maybe as you enter the industry, like side cut, radius, rocker, camber, wood cores, titanium, carbon. Really just pull that all out and eliminate it, because it really comes down to just trusting that the brands have been around for a really long time and we know what we're doing when it comes to making hard good equipment. You need to find the products that make you feel good and that give you confidence when you ski. And if you identify the things that we just recommended, like the type of skier you are, where you want to be skiing, you should be able to navigate, hopefully Nordica, but other brands as well, you know, in their product collections of what type of ski that they're offering you. And don't let the lingo or maybe the shop that you go into influence that. We're here to help hopefully empower you to have a couple little tricks that are really easy that you can say to a shop employee when you walk in, so that you have confidence walking in and they respond to that confidence. Bindings. Well, I have this on the side because bindings don't really matter necessarily. They're made for two things: retention and release. You want them to hold you in and you want them to release when you get in trouble. All of the binding companies are amazing. We don't make bindings at Nordica, but we do partner with Marker. They are the supplier of all of our demo bindings. So when you're trying out Nordicas, if you see a Nordica tent at any demo at your local resort, please walk over there. They'll be super happy to have you demo our skis. But in general, all of the binding companies are really great. There's one term you need to know when it comes to bindings, and that's your DIN setting. So that's the number that of tightness for that retention release portion of the binding that is really important. And this is really important that you're honest with your weight and your ability level when you're going to a shop or a demo to tell them how to set your DIN, because then they'll know where to put you. The manufacturers, and depending on what binding you're using, they will know how to do that. So really just DIN, and you need to know your weight and your ability level for that. And I think this is the last piece of what's considered hard goods equipment, which is poles. And poles are super fun. They've come a long way. We do make poles, but we don't focus on those. They come in lots of fun colors nowadays. You can get aluminum poles or carbon poles. But one thing that I have found recently that I think is a fun trick is that you can buy touring adjustable poles. They're pretty inexpensive and you can use them across family members. So for example, my mom, I have 2 little kids and I can shorten my touring poles so my little kids can use them, or then I can use them and my husband can use them. And so it's just like a little trick. A lot of companies make them, and you can also, use them for hiking. Some of the newer poles, you can take the baskets off. So in the summertime, you can use them for hiking and use that adjustability. So I would say that our number one thing with poles is maybe try to buy the touring poles that are adjustable. And then the trick with poles in general to know what size you are is to flip them upside down, hold the pole right under the basket, and your arm should be in a 90-degree. So that's how you know that's the right length. If you grab a pole and your hand's up higher or down lower, your hand should really be under the basket. Hold the pole upside down under the basket and form a 90-degree angle with your arm. So that's what I've got for you. I hope that was helpful, and I'll pass it over to Sarah again.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it from here. So I kind of forgot to mention when I introduced myself, my experience. I am a snowboarder. I started as a child skiing, but switched to snowboarding when it was cool when I was in middle school. So snowboarded for several years, took a few years off when I was having babies, and got back into it probably 6 or 7 years ago. So I'm still learning a lot, especially since when I first started, it was kind of a newer sport and there wasn't a lot of options and gear and stuff. And so I'm kind of learning a lot actually with putting this presentation together. I learned a lot of new things, but when it comes to choosing a snowboard, there's a lot of different options. It really does depend on what you are doing, riding, backcountry, groomers, all of that. I'm assuming that most people here tonight are in the beginner, going to just be riding groomers. It really doesn't matter what type of board that you're on. That's all pretty advanced stuff. And so the main thing that you're going to want to do and know is how to size the board to you. And the sizing, like there's tons of charts online that you can look up that tell you height and weight, what size that you should be. But the general rule is if you stand the board up, it should be between your nose and your chin. So for example, I'm 5'9", I ride a 156. So I find it can be a little confusing because you don't know what the sizing terms mean, but it's in centimeters. 156 centimeters comes to right about here. And when you are renting, which I would also recommend, especially when you're getting started, is to rent a few times from a rental shop. They're going to get the board sized for you. So they're going to ask you your height and your weight, and they're going to get the right board for you. Pay attention to that, and then try something slightly different the next time, and just kind of play around with a few centimeters can make a really big difference in how you maneuver on a mountain. And your weight does play a pretty big role in that too. You might be tall and really, really small and lightweight, and so your board's going to vary in size, or vice versa. So do kind of experiment with that a little bit as you're renting, because it really helps you kind of narrow it down. Then if you do go to buy a board later, especially if you're buying from a used board situation, they're going to just tell you what size the board is. So it's nice to have a general idea of what size you might need if you're shopping on Facebook Marketplace or something like that. Also, there's different types of boards. I have a few out behind me here, just as kind of, because you'll see these on the mountain and go, what are these? These are all advanced boards. I do not recommend them. This one here is like a powder board. They're park boards and freestyle boards. So that's kind of some of the different shapes. They're directional, twin directional, and the sushi board here. That's mostly what I have on board. So we can go to the next slide. And when it comes to boots, this is the really important one. And Carly it's similar stuff that she was talking about with your ski boots. Your main things are going to be your boot flex and riding style, and your lacing systems are kind of the two different things to think about when buying boots. Also, if you're going to buy anything, buy your boots first. Same kind of rule. Like, boots are the most important piece of equipment. I bought boots and rented gear for years because that didn't matter as much as the boots. I did learn something though, and I was telling the ladies before this that I learned something really important when I was prepping for this presentation, and I think I have the wrong size boots. So the main thing when you're getting boots is you want them to fit snug. They do size like shoes do, but as shoes, different brands vary, all of that. And so you do want them to fit snug. You don't want a lot of room around your toe and your heel, which I did not realize. So when you're trying on boots, you want your heel to stay solid in that heel box. You don't want a lot of lift. It's okay to have a tiny bit of movement, but not lifting. I'm lifting like probably an inch out of my boot. Not good. So I have to take my own advice and try to go find some new boots here, because I think that's going to affect how I ride a lot. Because when your foot lifts out of your boot, you're spending so much time trying to not slip out of your boot that you're not controlling your board well. So that was really important to learn. And then there's different styles. There's soft flex, medium flex, stiff flex. None of that really matters as a beginner either. You really kind of want a soft, flexible boot. It allows more movement and more control of your board. The more advanced, you might get into the different stiffness if you're really trying to be in control, freestyle, all that stuff. Too advanced for me. But the different styles of lacing systems are really personal preference. Let's see, what do we have? We have a regular lace up, like traditional boots, where you are literally like lacing boots. There's a quick pull, which is a cable that you pull and fasten, and that will tighten your boot. And then there's a BOA system. And so I have samples. So this is a lace up system where you are actually like feeding the lacing through the boot and tightening it. This is really good for if you like have a really small ankle and you really need to have the tightness in a certain part of your foot versus just overall, or tightening it down by the toe. You can control how your fit is more in a lace up than you can in the cable. This is my boot. It's a BOA system. So this is like a little pop tab that you push in and then turn, and it just tightens this cable in your boot. Super easy. I love it because of the ease. And then you just pop it out and release your boot. You don't have as much control in the tightness of your fit across your foot with that, because it does tighten it kind of just across your entire foot. They do have some boots that actually have a second BOA on the side that kind of controls the tightness a little bit more, but those are the different systems. And there is on the inside too, there's a lacing system. So you put your foot in and you tighten that up, and then you actually tighten the outside of the boot. So two-part system. So those are kind of the different styles of boots and how to lace them. But definitely you want to wear the socks that you're going to ride in. Don't go in like your thin running socks and try on boots and then think that your slightly thicker boarding socks are going to work, because that's not the case. So definitely try them on with what you're going to wear. Later in the day is better as your feet swell. It's a better time of day to try them on. But the heel lift, very important tidbit to know that you don't want a lot of movement in your boots. So that is what I learned. And bindings. So bindings, same kind of thing with snowboarding. Is not as important. There are a lot of different binding brands. They would probably tell you a different story about their importance, but the main thing is obviously they hold your foot in the board. You're going to have different flexes. Also, as you get more advanced is when that becomes more important, but There's a high back that's going to support the back of your foot. And then there's 2 straps that go across your toe and like the arch of your foot. So there's 2 different styles. One style is regular strap bindings. You open up the binding, you step in, you strap them on. The other type is called a speed entry, or I call them a rear entry, where that back part drops down and you can just slip your foot in and pop that back up. That's what I use. I personally love that style because I don't have to sit down and get back up. So it has made a big difference in myself in how I maneuver on the mountain. But when you are snowboarding, you will strap in one foot and have one foot out. I'll get into that in a little bit. But there's mainly those 2 types. And the most popular is going to be the standard strap binding. That's what you'll get when you rent. It'll either fit across the tip of your toe or across the top of your toe. And then it has a little ratchet system to tighten it up, and then a quick release to get out of them. Different from skiing though, is your board will not come off of your foot. So if you fall and crash, your board is to stay on your foot. That's also a good one to know. There are differences though in regular and goofy. And so this is all in placement. When you are renting, you're going to need to know this. And the main thing is knowing which is your lead foot. So when you're snowboarding, you're going to have one foot that is your more dominant lead foot. And the best way to figure that out is to stand still, fall forward, and whichever of your feet catches you first is your lead foot. So if you fall forward and your lead foot is your left foot, you are regular. And if you have your right foot forward, that's goofy. When you are renting, they're going to ask you that if you know. If you don't know, you can look at them like you have no idea what they're talking about, and they will help you figure that out. The other part of bindings is the placement on your board. So if you are setting up your own system, there's little holes where you can put them in. But the main thing is to start out is to just have like a stance that's like shoulder width apart and both feet kind of at a neutral position. They call that like a duck foot. And that I like to start out with is good because you kind of have more control over your board. Some people like to ride with their feet more directionally, but stance you can kind of play with a little bit too. You can narrow it up a little bit or make it a little bit wider depending on what feels comfortable. And you can play around with that until you figure out the best placement for you. Especially if you are also not sure if you're regular or goofy, having just a neutral stance will allow you to ride both directions until you've determined which stance is the best one for you. Okay, now I threw together some hints because as a snowboarder, there's a couple things that make me very anxious about snowboarding in resorts, even though I've been doing this longer than it's ridiculous. But a couple of things that I kind of just wanted to talk about because these are things that I still get nervous about sometimes and it's ridiculous. But when you get to the mountain and you get your board, what do? Right? Like, how do I put this thing on? So you want to strap in your lead foot. So I'm a regular rider, so my left foot is my lead foot. So you are going to strap in your lead foot and then stand up and your back foot, as you see in this picture, one foot's in, one foot's out. So practicing around the base area, learning how to skate. So one foot strapped in, your other foot is out, your foot's behind you, skating yourself around and just getting comfortable with how that feels, not being strapped into both feet. And how to balance, putting your loose foot on your board right in front of your bindings and just kind of getting a feel for that. This was life-changing for me when I started doing this before getting on a chairlift, because it just kind of refreshes all your muscle memory. First time, especially just getting used to it. Anytime I take beginners out, this is the first thing we're going to do, like 15-20 minutes skating around before even ever getting on a chairlift or trying to go down a mountain. It's really important to know how to kind of control yourself in this situation, because when you get off a chairlift, that's what you're going to be in. Your one foot is not strapped in, and it can be a little scary because it feels like out of control. So you want to practice that before you ever get on a chairlift. And then once you feel comfortable with that, you are going to skate to the chair. Skating with your foot behind you is definitely an easier way to go. When you do get up to the chair, when you get to the line to get on the chair, at that point, you're going to step across your board and in front of it, and then look over your back shoulder for the chair. Don't awkwardly try looking over the other way. You're going to look over your shoulder and then be able to sit down on the chair. That's incredibly helpful information. This is all experience, by the way. The other thing that I wanted to point out is when you're riding on a chairlift, pay attention to who you're riding with and which direction your board's facing. So as a regular rider, I like to sit on the far left side. My board is naturally facing that direction. When I get off the chair, I'm just going to go in that way. I'm not going to crash into all my friends, especially skiers. They hate that. It's like their least favorite thing. So, and if you're with other boarders, you know, if you have a regular and a goofy rider, don't pair them against each other so they're going to crash into each other. Like, paying attention to the direction you get off a chair is just going to make everybody's day that much better. Also, when you do get off the chair, you're going to approach, scoot to the edge of your seat, get that loose foot pushed up against your binding. I like to keep my heel like 2 inches off the end of the board, so when I get off, I can use that as a brake. It really helps a lot because this is a big anxiety issue for a lot of people, getting off a chairlift and not crashing or knocking yourself out or all of your friends. So having your foot pounded to the back, use it as a brake, get out of the way as quick as possible and strap in. The main thing also with snowboarding is you're going to fall a lot. Like, I fall every time I go. You can't avoid it. It's just part of the sport. So just knowing that and being okay with that and not getting frustrated that you're just starting out and you're falling all the time and it's really difficult, and practicing getting up. Some people make this look ridiculously easy. I do not find this an easy thing. The older and bigger that I have gotten, it's gotten a lot harder. So figuring out what works best for you and not putting yourself up against other people and feeling like you just can't do it. Like, practice. I have to get up off of my knees. Like, I'll be real. Like, I can't, unless I'm on a steep slope, I can't get up from a sitting position. So I flip over, pop up off my knees. Play around with that until you have a comfortable way of standing up, because that's been the one thing with the last few groups have taken out as beginners that they get the most frustrated about, is not being able to stand up. So practice that, be okay with that. And if you do ride with skiers, this can be frustrating because they get off the chair, they take off, they're ready to go. They're faster on the mountain. It's just the way it is. And that's okay. They also can push themselves with poles. We don't have poles. We can get stuck in flat areas, all of that. But if you are with skiers, they have to share their poles with you. That's just a rule that they have to pull you through the flats. So that's that. But that's kind of my top tips for snowboarding. So I'll hand it over to Robin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marlia. Such great tips. Thank you so much for sharing those. Okay, what to wear. So we're going to talk about mostly layering systems to make sure that you stay warm and comfortable when you're on the slopes. All right. So the first thing, the most important thing, is a helmet. So you want to definitely have a helmet to protect your head. And you also want to make sure it's a ski specific helmet. So helmets that are designed for other sports, like a bike helmet, just aren't designed or tested to hold up for ski collisions and impacts. So you want to make sure it's a ski or snowboard helmet. Goggles. So they don't just look cool, they actually serve a really important purpose. So not only protecting you from the sun, but also the wind and the elements. And something to just be aware of is that there's many different kinds of lenses. So if you're going to be night skiing, many ski areas do have that option. You want to opt for clear or lighter lenses, like a yellow tint. But if it's really sunny, you might want a darker lens. And even if it's overcast, you might want a different lens. So I know it sounds like a lot, but if you're only buying one pair of goggles, you can typically find one that covers you for the majority of riding that you're doing, or even better, comes with interchangeable lenses that you can switch out depending on the conditions. So if you just do a quick Google of like lens colors for different conditions, you'll see on REI and many other websites recommendations for the type of conditions that you're in. But in general, tints such as red, blue, or green cover the widest range of conditions. Base layer or neck gaiter, super important, especially if it's windy or snowing. Just a neck tube. Some people like fleece, some people like a thinner synthetic one or wool one. But it is really important to just have the option to protect your face. It has definitely saved me many a day on a chairlift in wind or cold, especially if that chairlift stops. Base layers. So the key with base layers, so the layer that's closest to your skin, is no cotton, because if cotton gets wet, it's going to stay wet all day. It's not going to dry, and it's going to make you really cold. So it's really important that your base layer is either wool or synthetic, so that it can wick moisture away from your body if you sweat. And that can be any sort of like tech base layer. It doesn't have to be like a really expensive Patagonia Capilene or like ski specific. It can just be any base layer for your top and your bottom. Your mid layer is your insulating layer. So this is where the warmth comes in. I typically wear a fleece or down, or like a synthetic Primaloft as my insulating layer. And then over that, your outer layer, you want to be waterproof. So your ski jacket, the main thing is that it is waterproof and can protect you in the elements. And it's up to you if you want it to be insulated or not. My outer layer is just a shell with no insulation. So I wear an extra mid layer for added warmth, because I tend to run cold. So I wear 2 mid layers. But my kids ski in insulated jackets and they tend to run hot. So they just wear one real thin fleece mid layer. So the key is layering, so you can take things off, put them on, and customize so that you stay comfortable throughout the day. As far as socks, Marlia mentioned you do want a thinner, tall sock. And similar to your base layers, you want to avoid cotton. So you want it to be wool or synthetic, and you want it to go up over your calf. So for example, this is a sock I might hike in, and even though it's taller, disappearing. It's not tall enough for skiing. So you want a ski specific sock that's really tall, goes up over your calf. Something that's labeled as a ski sock usually has some sort of padding on your shin, so that's going to help as well. So that you yes, can be a little bit more comfortable while you're skiing. And a pro tip with socks is make sure that there's no bunching or seams inside your ski boot, because that can really be uncomfortable if you do have any bunching or seams. So yeah, make sure it comes up and no seams. And then the last thing on gear is mittens or gloves. So you just want to have insulated, waterproof, warm mittens or gloves, and you might want to consider adding hand warmers to them as well if it's extra cold out, or just keeping a pair of hand warmers in your pocket. I see that we lost our screen share, so I'm just going to keep rolling, and then in a few slides I'll be able to share my screen. All right, so a few opportunities for procuring all of the stuff that we're talking about. You've heard Marlia say this, and Carly recommend getting rentals. So we absolutely at SheJumps are in the camp of just not buying everything, but renting it. So it's more cost effective. It allows you to try things out first. So there's often in-town rentals. And some places, a lot of places have season rental options that might be more cost effective if you think you're going to be going multiple times throughout the season. And then there's also on mountain rental options. Some resorts even offer like an on mountain rental and pass option. where it's like a season rental is included and a beginner pass. So that could be great. But please note that a reservation may be required ahead of time. So just check out the policies online. Also use gear. It's such a great way to get into the sport. Places like Craigslist or eBay or Facebook Marketplace oftentimes have really great deals on used gear. I would be cautious, one watch out buying skis on Craigslist. If they're older bindings, the ski shop might not be able, if they're skis, might not be able to adjust them, kind of rendering the bindings worthless. So the skis could still be great, but if they're older bindings, within a certain number of years, shops won't be allowed to adjust them. And then borrowing from a friend. So for example, my husband and I used to work at a ski shop, and over the years have just accumulated lots of extra gloves and goggles and neck gaiters, and we just kind of keep them in a bag in our basement. And so when we have friends who are new to the sport or people coming into town, oftentimes we can outfit them with almost everything head to toe. So if you're going with a friend, they'll probably be really happy to loan you some of their extra gear. So you don't have to invest in everything up front. And then local used gear shops, there's some great finds to be had at places like Goodwill or thrift shops or consignment stores, and many gear stores will also have a used gear section. And then Facebook groups. So if you look for groups in your location with the names listed here, buy, sell, trade, or gear swap, you can often find some really good deals on gear. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dione to talk about what to pack when you're going to the mountain.
For sure. So of course, the first thing you're gonna want to pack is gear. You're gonna want your skis or your snowboards and everything else that you're gonna need that has already been talked about. Usually resorts have a rental shop like within the resort. So I know that some people like to get their stuff there so they don't have to be hauling it like up the mountain, either whether it be like in your car or in the ski bus, which can get kind of messy sometimes. But one of the most important things I would say is sunscreen. When you're out in the mountain, the sun reflects so much through the snow, it's almost blinding. So we all know no matter what kind of like overcast day, sunny day, sunscreen is really important. As well as the lip balm with SPF. I recently had to learn the hard way to get some of that because my lips got sunburnt and it's not fun. They're peeling right now and it is, let me tell you, a nightmare. So make sure you can go to like an REI, or honestly, like even also at the rental shops, they have just like little chapsticks with SPF. Just get yourself one, keep it in your ski pocket. It'll be wonderful. Hand warmers are also so good. They're super light to pack. And what I like to do is like, I'll just grab a pack or two before like I head out of my house. And when I get to the resort right away, especially if it's kind of like an overcast day, I'll put it in my little compartment in my mittens, my ski mittens, and like they will keep my hands warm throughout the day. Super nice. And then especially if you're like carpooling or taking the ski bus, it'll help make sure that you continue having like circulation and like warm blood in the tips of your toes and fingers, because unfortunately, since there's not a lot of blood flow there, that's one of the first things to go with frostbite. Water, especially when you go up high altitude, your body's going to require more water, so you are going to want to keep hydrated, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. But as well, I mean, you're sweating, you're doing exercise, you want to make sure that you're hydrated, not only for like oxygen flow throughout your body, but also it'll help so much with like cramping on your legs and whatnot. Snacks and lunch, because we all know that resort food is really expensive and sometimes it's not the best tasting. So make sure you pack your favorite snacks or like little sandwiches, just food that you really like. Some people like to do tailgates. So if you do go up with like a bunch of friends, you can like all pack food to like share with each other. You're going to want something that is going to keep your body, like your metabolism running. I really like taking like a Cliff Bar, like one of the chocolate ones, because chocolate would also help you keep warm. So it's great, and it's super easy to just like grab it out of my pocket in the chairlift if I don't want to. Like if I'm in like a rush day, just take it out of my pocket, eat it in the chairlift, do a couple more runs, and go home. So make sure you're always kind of munching a little bit. It'll help you stay energized throughout the day and also warm. We can move over to the next one. And like I said, stay hydrated. It's sometimes people that are not used to changing altitudes. Mountains are higher altitude than like your usual valley. They will start feeling like a little dizzy or get headaches, and they often don't know why. They're like, oh, like I had food, like I don't know what's going on. But most often not, it's because they need more hydration. Most places they already have like their drinking fountains that have like the little compartment for your water bottle, so you can take your own. There's like the little compact ones that you can keep in your backpack, or they have lockers that you can like stash your bag for the day and get a water bottle to keep in there. There are like camelbacks, hydration tubes, and like hydration packs that are starting to come out with like insulation so they don't freeze as easily as a regular hiking one. But of course, that's going to be like a little bit more of an investment. So just look into getting like a reusable like hydro flask or such to stay hydrated throughout the day. We can move on. So just a couple of resort tips. It's quite the experience, especially if you're going for the first time. It can be overwhelming, especially when you see this walking into the resort first thing. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, there's so many runs. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. One can get easily overwhelmed, but honestly, familiarizing yourself with the trail map of the resort that you're going to be skiing at is so important. There will be posted like at the top of the lifts, at the base of the mountain. There's also like the little fold out ones, and also a lot of resorts now have a phone app that you can look at the map from, and it's really great because I usually go ski solo, so I kind of like map out where I'm going, kind of get familiar with the names of the runs, so when I see signage I know which way to go. But if you're going with friends and they might be like at a different skill set and they want to go take 1 or 2 laps of their own, you can be like, hey, we'll meet at the base of this run or at the base of this lift. So it will be super helpful with that, and also kind of just avoiding runs that you are not quite ready to do, especially if you're going on your own. That's one of the biggest tips I would say. Like if you're going on your own, make sure you stick with terrain that you're familiar with and that you're comfortable with. If you go with other people, you can do a little bit more exploring, whatever, of course, is within your comfort zone, though. And I'm gonna switch it over to Sarah to talk a little bit about the mountain navigation.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dione. So as you just saw, that was a great like trail map example. And as you notice, like all the runs are different colors. So the main like breakdown of ski runs that's pretty universal is like a green circle is your easiest run. Blue square is like your medium, more difficult. And then black diamond is like it's funny, they say most difficult, but then there's a double black diamond, which is harder. That's kind of like expert only. But for getting started, definitely like green circle is a great spot to start. They'll generally be more like a shallower slope and wider and smoother. It's a great place to learn. So when you're like looking at a trail map, those are great spots to like seek out, and you'll see kind of in this picture, like spots all around the mountain that have trail signs, and they'll direct you, and they'll have like the difficulty rating on the trail sign. So you can just like point or go to wherever like the pointer for the green arrow is. As you're making your way around resorts, like a few things to know about are cat tracks. Those are runs that are like super shallow or not steep compared to other runs that kind of wind their way around the mountain. and they'll normally either lead to the base area or to a chairlift, and that's kind of where all the other runs funnel into those cat tracks. And those are, as I was just saying, like the least steep runs on the mountain. So those can be great places. And oftentimes there'll be, maybe some steeper runs that connect and cross over the cat track, but they'll have a cat track that's an easiest way down. There's a lot of lingo, just like with everything. There's lingo when it comes to the mountain itself. Groomed runs most greens are hopefully going to be groomed. And that just means it's been like gone over with a big machine that smooths it out, and makes the snow nice and soft and not bumpy. On trail is similarly anything that like has those lines on the ski map, that's a trail. And then the alternate is off piste or off trail. And that's like kind of like in between the runs, maybe like a tree run, stuff like that. But as you're getting started, like green circle, groom runs, those are great places to start. Another thing to be aware of is ski patrol. It's a really great idea to just save their phone number in your phone number. So if anything happens, you can call. They'll also should be signs around the mountain directing you to like where the nearest ski patrol hut is. And then additionally, there'll be signs for like base areas or lodges and how to get there. So just things to keep in mind. And then here's a quick look at like what you might see on a resort's webpage when it comes to their mountain report. Most resorts have this. Hopefully it's pretty easy to find. It'll show you like the current conditions for weather, snow or cloudy or sunny, whatever the sky cover is, highs and lows temperatures to help you figure out like what to wear and how to layer up best so you're prepared. And then they'll also go into like how many trails they're open, what runs are groomed, things like that, as well as give you good little webcams around the mountain so you can see like, oh, it looks like it's really windy or it's really sunny today. Yeah, this is just a great resource to like check in before you head to the mountain to just kind of prepare yourself, figure out what to wear, and figure out like if there's a lot of snow and you're going to have to ski powder, or if it'll be like a lot of groomed trails. And then additionally, a resort like webpage normally has the weather dialed in for their specific area, and that's great. If you're interested, there's more options to get like more detailed weather. Weather.gov is a great one that you can just enter your zip code and it'll tell you your weather forecast for the day and the week. And that pretty much tells you everything you need. But if you're really into weather, NOAA.gov can do the next step up. That's like storm tracking and stuff like that. I probably wouldn't really recommend it unless you are super stoked on weather, but literally like your local ski mountains page will have everything you need. And there's a couple of different resources if you're like new to looking at the weather, and we can share these out in our follow-up email. But most weather reports these days are pretty good at just explaining things and not using like confusing symbols. So we've kind of passed on that on like needing to know how to read a weather report, but it's still helpful. So we'll share that information out. And basically when it comes to weather, we just like make sure that your gear matches the weather. That's where like all the extra layers can come in handy. Or if it's going to be like snowy or wet, you want to make sure you have waterproof gear, things like that. And so not only does knowing the weather help you dress yourself, it also will just give you a good idea for like transportation and when you're driving to the resort, like how the roads might be, if it's going to be snowy, things like that. So it's just really important to keep in mind for safety in all aspects of resort skiing, which will then Robin will touch on a little bit more.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And I do realize that we are at time. We only have a few more slides left. So if you are able to hang on till the end, that's great. But totally understand if you need to hop off, we will be emailing a recording of the presentation tomorrow. And also a few of us will be staying on after we wrap to answer any questions you might have. I'm just going to cover some of the key points on the next couple of slides to keep moving. So transportation, we definitely recommend either carpooling or taking public transit. Many ski areas do have a shuttle option from town. If you are driving, do your research on tires. So some areas actually require traction tires or chains if you're driving in a snowy or icy zone. So make sure that you're aware of that going into it and comply with whatever laws are in place for your state. Also, snow tires can be studded or not studded. So just some things to think about if you are going to invest in winter specific tires. Certain states have restrictions on studded tires. Also, just make sure that the tread's really good and that your tires are inflated properly. That goes a long way in slick conditions. All right. On the next slide, we do have some winter driving tips. So checking out your state's Department of Transportation website is a great place to start, to just be aware of road conditions if you're driving up. And then you can Google AAA winter driving tips. There's all sorts of videos out there, and 3 key ones that I think of regularly when I'm driving is just give yourself plenty of time. Leave earlier than you think. There's going to be traffic. It's going to be a slower drive than you anticipate most of the time. And then apply gas and brakes slowly. You don't want to jam on either, especially in slick conditions. And then leave extra space, so more space than you would traditionally leave between cars, so that if you do start sliding, that you do have a little bit of a buffer zone. Also keep some emergency supplies, like a bundle of cold weather gear in your car, so if you do get stuck or stranded, you'll have things like warm clothing, extra food and water, blankets, flashlight, etc. on hand. And always keep at least half a tank. Better yet, have a full tank if you're driving up to the mountains, because oftentimes they're long stretches of the drive where there's not an option to fill up. And then parking is a consideration that's I think really been a factor, especially in the last few years. Oftentimes ski areas will have lots that fill up, and unfortunately they do have to turn people away when the lots are full. So you want to plan to get to the mountain early, or plan on kind of second shift after lunch or night skiing as people are leaving. Do your research to find out if you have to pay or make a parking reservation or need a special parking pass. In Oregon, for example, you need a permit called a snow park permit to park in the lots. And then some areas offer discounts or incentives to carpooling. So definitely a great option for both gas prices and better for the environment. Kids, so this is the picture I mentioned with my grumpy daughter early on. Skiing with kids is a whole nother ball game. I'd say the bottom line, if you go, is just to keep it fun and be prepared for a really wide range of emotions. So a few seconds before this picture was taken, my daughter was hooting and hollering, and then she got stuck in some powder, and like the whole day fell apart. So keep it fun, temper your expectations. You may end up spending all day on the magic carpet or doing more snowman building than actual skiing, but that's okay as long as they're having fun. If lessons are an option for you, consider that. I used to be a ski instructor, but I still put my kids in lessons because they listen to other people better than me sometimes on the slopes. So lessons can make a world of difference. And also with gear, you really want to try everything on ahead of time, because kids grow so quickly, but you also want to make sure that it's comfortable for them and they know how to get on and off independently, especially if they're taking a lesson. Practice getting the boots on and off at home, buckling them, walking around in ski boots. If you have carpeted area in your house, you could even practice sliding with your skis on and clicking in and out of the skis. That gives them a lot more confidence when they're actually out on the slopes. And then another trick that my parents did for me, and I absolutely recommend it for everyone, is always keep some candy in your pocket. Having a Jolly Rancher or some M&Ms makes a world of a difference when a kid's having a grumpy day. It can really turn things around. And then just lots of breaks. Hot chocolate can make a huge difference when someone's not having fun, and just always take bathroom breaks with the kids before gearing up for the day, because inevitably once all the gear is on, they'll tell you they have to use the restroom. So do it early and often. And yeah, just keep it fun. All right, a couple bonus tips here is if you're coming with gear and layers that you might need to shed, a lot of resorts have lockers that you can use to store your gear for a day. Tickets, it can be really intimidating showing up to a new resort and having no idea where to go. So you can call the resort ahead of time or on the map, find out where to get your ticket and also how to use them, because some resorts have passes that you keep in your pocket. Other resorts have passes that they need to scan. So the people who work at the resorts are oftentimes really excited and willing to help you with those questions. Take lots of breaks. And then, as Marlia mentioned, and If you're new, falling is okay, and it's absolutely part of the learning process. So I'm not going to read each bullet here because we've gone over a lot of them, but one key thing I think is if you are skiing with friends, decide ahead of time on a meeting spot for the morning and also at the start of each run in case you get separated, because oftentimes cell signals can be really spotty at ski areas. So you always want to have a plan if you get separated where to meet up. Okay, our last slide, Dione is going to bring us on.
Yeah, for sure. So, honestly, if you have the bandwidth to afford a ski lesson, please do it. It is so incredible to get help from someone who knows what they're doing. Especially I've experienced this learning as an adult. It can be really intimidating, especially because a lot of the people that are within the sport have been doing this since they were little. I know they can be expensive, so you could probably even just get a bunch of friends together and share a group lesson. It'll make it more cost friendly, but also make friends with teachers, because that will save you so much money, and you can just go ski with them and they will just go into automatic drive mode and they will be like, oh, you should do this and this, and like, you're doing this wrong. And that's kind of what has been helping me so much over the last few years, just getting professional help from an instructor. And it'll be just fun. It can be frustrating because you're like, oh, I just want to be good like right now, but it's a process. And kind of like Maria said, you're gonna fall, but once you fall, you're gonna notice that it's okay to fall. And it'll just help you grow and go on from there and just have fun with this sport, because that's what it should be.
Awesome. Thank you, Dione, and to all of our panelists. This wraps up our presentation. Thank you to all of you that are here. Thanks for sticking on. I know we ran a little longer, but I hope you got some good tips out of it. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but we're going to hang around. And if you have questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A, and we would love to answer them. Thank you again to everyone, all our panelists and Nordica and Icon for supporting SheJumps. And thank you all for joining us tonight. Okay.